Twitch. We use both platforms. Simple as multimedia outlet.
Yeah, as you all know, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're here, there, and everywhere. And also, you can see us over at the Etihad Stadium as well. Oh, won't see. Rich and Alan will eventually get back there. But yeah, tonight, City versus Gillingham. So before we get into it, Alan, what are your initial memories, your first memories of this whole day, this whole thing?
The first thing that comes to mind of this day, I was with four of my mates behind the goal at Wembley. And the first initial what I remember is two of my mates walking out when we went 2-0 down when Robert Taylor scored. And I just sat there with my head in my hands thinking, how the hell can I go back to Manchester? Because the worst scenario possible was United had won the treble on the Wednesday in the European Cup. And I didn't go back to work for 2 days after they won that because I couldn't face the music when I went to the office in Altrincham at that time. Because I went in, my desk was covered in United memorabilia, and I just walked straight back to the office, pulled a sickie. My boss was ringing me what we're doing, and I ended up going home, refused. They were all laughing because my bosses were Man United fans, and I said I'm refusing to come in until all that memorabilia has been moved from my desk. And then the director from London rang, laughing his head off, said, what are you doing? So I'm not coming in. There's no way. I couldn't face the music. I just couldn't face it. It was embarrassing. And going down to Wembley on the weekend to watch City against Gillingham, thinking there's no way on earth we can lose this. Not against Gillingham. Who are they? And we were 2-0 down. We were 2-0 down. Typical City. Thinking, how can I go back home? How can I live in Manchester again? How can I face the music with my mates, who most of them were United fans? And how could I face work with total embarrassment and shamed when United have won the lot? We're stuck in Division 2. But the worst things that was in my mind at the time was this could be the end of my football club, because it was confirmed later, months later, that if we hadn't gone up and come back from 2-0 down, with minutes to go, that the club would probably have gone into administration and possibly gone out of existence. So the day was fought with emotion, similar to the QPR games. For the young ones that obviously weren't there and weren't around at the time, it was worse emotions because the love of my life, namely Manchester City Football Club, could have now not exist. And those players that played in that games, like Sean Golders, the Horlocks, the Paul Dickoffs, Bish, all these types of players should be the real heroes of Manchester City, because if it weren't for those players, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be making this video, and the Arabs wouldn't be at Manchester City Football Club for us to enjoy all the success. And that's the way I put, Paul Dickoff was in our branch in Melbourne. He's been there a few times now. Against the Leicester game, if you remember the Leicester game, and he was jumping on my back. The guy is an absolute hero and should be for every City fan. No one ever should forget them. But the torture we went through that day was horrendous.
Rich, what your initial memories?
I had it worse than Alan, because I was living in London, so I was obviously living where most Man United fans are, and not that many City fans. So I remember bits of the day, and there's large bits of the day I don't remember at all. I remember waking up with tonsillitis or feeling like crap and dosing myself up on about a treble dose of Panadol to get through the day. My brother came down and his mate and my girlfriend, now wife. So the four of us went to the game. I remember Bartram being brilliant, and suddenly we're 2-0 down. And I remember loads of people leaving. None of the people I was with, the four of us stayed. Like, I've never left. I don't think I've ever left the game early, but you couldn't anyway. My feet I couldn't walk. I would have just, And then the next thing I remember is a consolation goal that was a bit like the Dzeko one. You kind of only could half celebrate because it seemed like it was, it was just it wasn't a goal that mattered. And then I remember being about 10 rows in front, hugging some strange blokes. And I was just saying to Rob earlier, extra time was I don't really remember extra time.
It was crap.
It's almost like we won the game at that goal, but I remember the penalties well. I remember the penalties, and I remember Dickov's goal, but it's a blur in between, except for the fact that two guys ended up sitting next to me on the other side who hadn't even had tickets for the game. They'd basically been down there, hadn't got tickets, had been at the pub. So many people left out, they'd left the doors open, and so all these people without tickets, City fans, had then got into the game, and they got to watch Dickov's, one of them, I think, had got in just about the time of Dickov's goal. So they were like the opposite of the people who'd left at 2-0. And then I remember we walked all the way back to Ealing, which seemed like about a 2-hour walk. I don't know if it was 2 hours, but stopping at a few places on the way. And I remember that. And then watching that night, watching the whole thing, drinking more beers and watching the whole thing about twice through till in one, early morning. But it was a mad day, and still kind of get goosebumps from some of those moments when you watch it back.
Yeah. The thing was, when Horlock scored that goal, I missed it because I had my head in my hands at the time, in deep depression, and so I just ended up half cheering, and when it came to the penalties, I didn't watch any of the penalties. I turned round, I couldn't face watching. I just could not face watching. I just went with the crowd.
Why am I not surprised?
I just couldn't. I always had that negative feeling, like I have, and I was facing the other way with my mate saying, "Who's taking it?" And he was giving me the commentary. It was horrendous. That's typical City. They put you through hell. The soap opera continues.
Well, all right. What about some context as to how we even got there in the first place?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go to.
Because it might come as a surprise to some of the younger viewers potentially in the chat, but there was a point in our history where no other club of our prestige, history, or stature has ever been, and if anyone's come close to it, they've almost always gone out of business or had to rebrand themselves. Was it Wimbledon? They went through a similar sort of fall from grace.
One club that probably did worse was Wolves.
Wolves
got down to the second bottom of their fourth division back in the day. I think they dropped right down. But obviously their glory days was in the 50s, whereas we were still a top. They weren't a bad side. They got a few finals, 70s and maybe into the early 80s, but they dropped down. But very few have. The closest nowadays is probably Sunderland in terms of their support, and they've won a fair bit of time, admittedly a long time ago. But it's bizarre. It was just bizarre. 30,000 people in Division 2.
Yeah.
It was a bit like a cult, wasn't it?
It
was a bit like a total cult the way we were.
Well, I just remember going. I remember going into Main Road that season, especially.
Yeah.
And no matter which way you looked or turned, you were surrounded by people who were as depressed, miserable, and resigned to their fate as you were. And it was almost cathartic because we are the ultimate stupid club. Alan calls us a soap opera club, but I'll call us a stupid club because in the 80s and the 90s we did things that made us all feel like we were a big boy, or we could be a big boy again.
Yeah.
And then we followed it up with, how many managers in a short space of time? How many players did we sign? I think we had 56 players on our books at one point in the 90s.
Yeah.
That the season we went down, I think was the season our squad.
This is going down from the Premier League, and let me just tell you how exactly we got relegated from the Premier League in the first place. Okay, so the last day of the season was a home game against Liverpool, and I think Liverpool had already got as high as they possibly could in the league at the time. They weren't challenging for the title, and they weren't going to fall out of the Champions League places or whatever it was. So Liverpool had pretty much already gone on holiday. And they tried their hardest to let us win that game. And it got to about the 80th minute, and somebody on a portable radio had made it clear, and the news spread around the ground, and it spread to the City staff as well, that a draw was enough. When it wasn't. Only a win was enough to stop us from getting relegated. So we got relegated pretty much on the back of, one, not trying hard enough against a team that was already on holiday, and two, believing someone with a pocket radio. That's why we're a joke. That's why we're Banter FC, the original Banter FC. And then obviously a season later we got relegated again. We found ourselves in Division 2. We called a lot of our squad. We signed some serious players like Kevin Orlock when we was in Division 1 with Frank Clark as the manager. And then the season later...
I have to correct you, Rob. We had 2 seasons in Division 1.
Sorry,
we got relegated on the second season.
And during that time, though, and then when Joe Royal took over, in Division 2, bringing players like Andy Morrison in, and we brought Terry Cook in from, was it directly from Man United?
Yes.
It was on loan. It was on loan, yeah.
And even that season, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows what the playoffs are, okay? The playoffs are sort of the last chance saloon for the third best club in the league. And by the way, it's not always the third best club in the league that wins it. But
Good point.
It means we weren't even good enough at that time to get automatic promotion back out of Division 2 in first or second spot. We had to do it via the playoffs, which is the playoffs for us that season. We played 2 games against Wigan, which we barely made it through. And there's a certain goal that was scored in those playoffs that still some people hold it against us to this day. Potential handball.
Sean Galter.
So anyway, we ended up at Wembley, and I tell you something. Wembley back then, I think, had a capacity of 80,000. I think this is the old Wembley we're talking about, not the new.
Yeah,
new
it is,
Wembley.
and it was falling apart.
And it was falling apart. And I tell you, my uncle got me my ticket, and my ticket said pillar obstructing view. Right? Now these, you'd be able to see them very small. These are pillars, and I was on, where's the tunnel? The tunnel's on this side, so I was up here, facing the tunnel, but slightly obstructed by a pillar. And I woke up at, I think it was 3 o'clock that morning, made it down to Upper Brook Street in Manchester, if anyone knows where Upper Brook Street is in Manchester. Got the coach. It was the loudest coach I've ever been on in my entire life. I've never been on a coach to an away game, and I go to a lot of away games. I've never been on a louder coach in my entire life. Everyone was drunk. Everyone was drunk. I think the driver was even drunk. And we got to Wembley after. To be honest, the journey itself, I didn't even feel like it was a journey. We just sort of floated down there because we were all in La La Land. You have to understand, we were all in La La Land because none of us were accepting that this was even real, that we were having to play in a what is now the League One playoff final. And the day itself, I've heard stories about people walking out, and some of the most famous sons of Manchester, which are the Gallagher brothers, they walked out. But then again, they walked out on Manchester as well after becoming successful on the back of Manchester. So what do you expect? Real fans didn't leave.
I didn't.
Because we were resigned to and accepted our fate, no matter what it was. Yeah? No matter what it was.
Can I just go back a little bit, Rob?
Yeah, of course you can.
You're talking about Wembley. Does anyone remember getting tickets for this? I know we all joke about the fiasco of today's ticket offers, but listen, you got a free tour of Main Road and of Greater Manchester if you were in this queue. And I'm not kidding, because my mother and father went down at 5 a.m. and queued up. This is no joke. And it was already going round the stadium at that point. And people were doing shifts in families. So you had somebody coming in and somebody going out. And they were serving bacon butties. They were serving cups of tea. People were there for 9, 10, 11 hours to get this green ticket that said nationwide playoff final. And it was like gold dust to get them.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
I don't know. The worst thing was about that was I was down in London. My brother and his mate queued up for tickets, and they were able to buy 2 each. So you had people who were queuing up.
Can anyone tell me what the actual figures were for that day?
To people.
I know that it was the most ever attended Division 2 playoff final. I know that for a fact. But what was the proportions of fans? Because it felt. I know that Gillingham did bring a decent representation that day. There is no disputing that. There was no way that it was equal ticket distribution. No, I know for a fact, by the way, that a load of Oldham and United fans went down in the Gillingham end. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, of course they did.
But
Gillingham never had 40,000 fans.
I'll tell you one thing. One thing about that day.
78,000 there that day.
Yeah, and it was so. The whole game was so loud. I honestly, people talk about the Bernabeu and Liverpool and blah blah blah. I've genuinely never experienced a louder atmosphere in my life than that day, because we sang for 2.5 hours straight, and and everything about that day felt like it was designed as like this soap opera story of Manchester City, even the part we were losing 2-0, so I've never had a day like it in my entire life.
I'll tell you now, there was officially 76,935 fans in the ground at the time for a Division 1. But it's now known as the old League One. At the time, it was Division 2, is what it was. And there was Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And I think it had the attendance record. And I think was it Sunderland who beat it? There was somebody beat it in the end. At the new Wembley.
We're not talking. This is the old Wembley.
At the old Wembley. There was no tiers to it. It was like a big bowl. And it had. But when they say an upper and a lower, it was a hoarding advertisement that basically.
The closest thing to it now is Hampden. Hampden's the closest thing to it now.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it was not the greatest day, but it was the day out, and I remember 5 a.m. in the morning. We got the coach on, where our Prey is. The McDonald's at our Prey.
Oh yeah.
There.
That's where I grew up, pretty much.
But that's it. Did you have a McDonald's?
We had a milkshake at 5 a.m. in the morning because people were drinking, but obviously I was only 16, 17 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, I was going down with my dad and my sister and one of my mates, and we'd sprayed our hair blue and we'd done everything, and it was,
what a sight.
It was something. I mean, I thought the Wembley game was the Wigan game when you're running on the pitch and we're singing, you can stick you can stick your treble up, what, because we were going to Wembley. We didn't care about United winning the treble this time. We were in our cup final. We were going to Wembley. We were doing something we thought we'd never do. And I remember getting there, Uwe Rosler outside, because anyone who went to the old Wembley, there were stone steps. Kiam and Chris will remember. And some of the old boys, there was stone steps, weren't there, going into like rickety old stony steps. And Uwe Rosler was at the bottom with a bottle of Carlsberg in his hand, and he started singing Blue Moon, and it was just, this is like one of your legends singing Blue Moon with the fans.
Yeah,
and it was like, we were all like, get on the pitch, get on the pitch, get on the pitch. We wanted him there. I think he'd gone to Kaiserslautern or Southampton or wherever he'd gone at that point. I can't remember whether he moved Southampton or Kaiserslautern after us, but he'd left. But you will see players in this game, if you haven't, that one of them is now in the armed forces, which is an amazing thing to do. But there are players that, sound like, no offence to today's players, sound like candlestick makers, butchers, and bus drivers.
Yeah. One of them spraying concrete.
Yeah,
One of them sells second-hand cars.
Without doubt, those players that played in that game and on the bench and etc. are probably the most important players.
Yeah, every single one of them. Every single one of them is as important as David Silva and Sergio Aguero and Vincent Kompany and all the rest of it. They're as important as Bowley and Summerby. They're just important in a different way, because this day, I can't stress enough to you that this day was win or bust. Like, no Manchester City, no YouTube channels about City, no Aguero moment in 12, no Centurion season, no back-to-back titles, no David Silva, no nothing. No Sheikh Mansour, no Robinho, none of it. If we lost this game of football, and that day in 1999, we were Dunskies, out of business, see you later.
And we're not exaggerating by saying that is the truth. As two people, I would say, of probably the most that we should be thanking more than anything in the world was David Bernstein, who was the chairman, who was an accountant, chartered accountant business in London, who brought us back financially to stability, and Joe Royal. And Joe Royal was treated like dirt a few years later. And if you kept an accountant real heroes, those two stripped it and rebuilt it from the ground up.
I think Wardle as well. I think Wardle.
Wardle. So what I'm going to do is
pocket and saved us.
I'm going to share my screen with you lot on Skype, so you can see my screen. Correct?
Yeah.
And I'm going to turn the volume down on the video, but not all the way off. And you're going to watch it, and you're going to sort of like talk about it as it happens, all right?
Yeah. And let us know in the comments.
Now, who was? Can I just ask, right? Let's quickly name the starting 11 from that day. So in net, Nicky Weaver, pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Lee Crooks,
Edgy,
Richard Edgill, Tony Vaughan, Gerard Vikins.
Yeah.
Now Ian Bishop was on the bench.
He was.
Terry Cook,
Morrison,
Kevin Orlock, obviously the best midfielder in the world.
Go and Dickoff.
Brownie,
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. Bloody hell.
We're going to see this later on, but one of my favourite celebrations.
Bish didn't start though. Bish came off the bench.
Yeah, Ian Bishop was a substitute. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Can I tell you that one of my favourite celebrations that I've ever seen? There's two of my favourite ever celebrations in this match. When Richard Edgill scores his penalty, because all of you people back in the day that slagged Richard Edgill off, I always loved Richard Edgill. He was one of our own, absolutely. No King Clancy. King Clancy was already gone. What a waste of space. And Tony Vaughan, when we won, I know Tony Vaughan, United fan, I get that, as far as I know, but his celebration when we won, he was loving it. Right, so I'm going to press play now, and then we'll, you can watch it and talk over it, please. Please don't just sit there and watch it. Talk about it as it happens.
Yeah, of course.
Isn't Tony Vaughan the one that went in the army?
No, he's a concrete.
Lee Crooks, that's it. Yeah.
Tony Vaughan's. I had an interview with him not long ago. He's spraying concrete.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
By the way, not that this day was biased in our favour in any way, shape or form, but they played Right Here, Right Now by
Coming Out.
Fatboy Slim as we came out, which was our song back then. You can look. I mean, look at that atmosphere, and look at all them fans.
Yeah. And City wearing that kit because we were both in blue, and Joe Royal offered to wear that because we hadn't. He reckoned we hadn't lost in that kit, and it was the lucky kit. So we went away for superstitious reasons.
And just to let everyone know, there was only 3 on the bench in these times.
So there's the starting 11 and the substitutes. Nicky Weaver, just an absolute legend. Lee Crooks, legend. Edgill, legend. Gerard Vikins, absolute legend. Andy Morrison, legend. Kevin Orlock, the best midfielder in the entire world ever. Michael Brown, who people keep telling me is a City fan, but he's the one that you see in the media quite a lot, Michael Brown. And I don't think he's always got the best things to say about us. Jeff Whitley in midfield and his brother Jim. Paul Dickoff, obviously. Sean Goulter and Teddy Cook. Now, Goulter and Dickoff didn't really do much of the goal scoring. And Terry Cook, by the way, had probably I think Terry Cook didn't come in at the start of the season, did he? I think he came in later.
No, he came in later.
He had a decent time of it, yeah?
Yeah,
but let me tell you something, right? On this day, this playoff final has got to be Terry Cook's worst ever game in a City shirt. He was woeful in this game. Right, anyway.
Dickoff, I remember chatting to Dickoff once, and he was the type of footballer. His nickname was apparently at Arsenal was shit, because Winterburn and Dixon said he was like a bit of shit on the bottom of his shoe. You just couldn't get rid of him because he was just like a little wasp.
I'll just letting everyone know now, the roar that went up when that game got kicked off was it sent shivers down your spine. And that was a
penalty. Can we talk about the handball there, by the way? Handball there. Oh, by the way, just to give you a bit of context, the guy on screen there, Paul Dickoff, his best man, he was the best man of the Gillingham goalkeeper, Vince Bartram.
And they were best men for each other, weren't they?
They were best friends. They were best friends.
No, but listen, anyone who has ever watched this with the Sky commentary, Alan Brazil was the most biased person ever when you watch it back later on. He was biased as anything.
And who was it? Was it David Pleat or someone who was on?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Someone like him who was just there to taunt City fans.
Nicky Weaver. We were City fans. Currently, we're behind the goal that Nicky Weaver is in. We are behind that.
Yeah. I'll tell you something now. That season, we had. I think we had a better support and more support than we have currently now.
Look how far forward Richard Edgell was then a second ago. Yeah, he moaned about Cancelo.
Hey, this was chance for the 90 minutes. Look at that for a save and an header.
Well, Bartram, he was man of the match, you know, and that.
Kevin Harlan didn't score that.
They give him man of the match, didn't they? And then we scored 2. So.
About 10 seconds afterwards, we scored.
You see Kevin Harlan there, missed that absolute sitter.
Yeah,
great player. Great player.
You've got to look at City's side. Actually, that had some players in there who did all right in the Premier League. You know, I thought Vikings. Even Goat right at the end of his career.
Everyone had kittens. Even though he was about 20 yards offside, everyone still had kittens.
Do you know what? Yeah, Chris, the future City legend playing for Gillingham. We'll get into that later on.
There was Richard Edgell's header that was about 16 miles wide, but in a Hollywood movie it would have been a diving header and he would have scored. There you go, 76,935. Look at that. Look at old Wembley. It's absolutely rammed.
I'll tell you something.
People tell us we've got no fans and no history. What's this? This is not a movie.
And I'll tell you something now. We had more loyal fans in those days than today.
Hey,
they'd turn up no matter what. They would turn up no matter what. Where these days they're whinging and moaning for not falling up after 20 minutes, and you have no idea what we went through. No idea.
That's you.
To be fair, there was a shitload of whinging and moaning.
Look at that.
Yeah. Okay, now I love that kit, that bully kit.
We were sardines in a tin that day.
Yeah.
I tell you, more people bought that kit shirt than any other as well for around that time.
Yeah, that yellow one. Yeah, I've still got my yellow kit signed by Dickoff.
Look at that great ball, going on the back stick, and he hits the post. At this point, I've got to say, I was starting to think, what is going on here? It was
never going to happen for us, was it?
We went down there and we were all thinking, this is going to be 2-3, 4-0. We did. We didn't think Gillingham had a prayer. And then at this point, every City fan was now literally having a kitten.
Look at this. You think Edison's passing's bad sometimes?
Yeah. And later on, you will notice we didn't just have kittens. We were having a farm for what was coming out, because it got bad. You never think about it, the amount of chances we wasted as well. I mean,
listen, Gillingham had their chances as well. By the way, it wasn't all one-way traffic.
Yeah, this is not off the Man City website, you know.
Looking at that kit now.
What do you think of the quality of the football, by the way? What do you think the quality of the football? I mean,
Wasn't bad.
On the whole, it was awful, but I think Gillingham and City in this game. I mean, let's be honest, Gillingham weren't actually playing for anything. Sure, they would have gone up into the Championship, but it wouldn't have
There's
mattered
goal,
really.
Asaba. Yeah.
And there's Carlos
I mean,
we were trying.
Great striker in Carlos Arba.
I've got to say,
Gillingham did have the Division 2 Dennis Bergkamp playing for him.
yeah, but Rich, if you look at that goal, it was quite a good goal. Look
It
at
was.
that,
Oh,
the layoff.
He was
Taylor
a good
and
player.
Asaba
He was,
were
he was
good
better
all
than
that
Bob
year.
Taylor. Bob Taylor was a journeyman, but Carlos
Yeah.
Arba was decent.
And as you'll see, there's Tony Pulis.
Oh yeah, let's talk about their manager, Mr. Club Shop. See, look, even at Gillingham, who's wearing a club shop. Yeah, and this, by the way, when we were 1-0 down, by the way, this was the worst time ever because they kept peppering us and everything kept just about going wide, and it was awful, absolutely awful experience at this point.
Tony Pulis got sacked about 3 days after this game as well.
Yeah.
Hey, this gets worse. We're on the 83rd minute.
Our heads are gone. Our heads, the players are gone.
Look
Heads
at
are
that. In
gone.
that. Vince Bartram there getting to that. You just... It was bad.
Do remember, United have just won the European Cup.
Oh, and
3 days.
let me tell you something about this football match, by the way. Half the tackles that went on in this football match would be red cards in modern football.
And here comes the women.
EDS coach.
Oh, here he goes, Bob
Was he,
Taylor.
the ladies... What's Taylor now? Is he
He's the women's manager.
City ladies coach.
Yeah. And there's Bob. Do you know the song we sang about here?
Weaver should have saved that.
And listen, I've got no room to talk
Weaver should
here,
have saved
but
that.
we literally sang Big Fat Bob, Big Fat Bobby Taylor. That's what we sang at Main Road when we bought him. I am not kidding you. Am I right?
It's typical that we signed Fat Bob instead of signing Carlos Arba, to be honest.
Yeah, the year after. Yeah.
Chris
You know,
Payne.
the second
Imagine
they
Ireland
scored
in this
that-
team, Rob.
The second they scored that, they took off Carlos Arba.
Look
They
at the
thought
fans.
They'd won it.
Well,
And
yeah,
they-
they were
as soon as
defending
the
the
goal
lead,
went
weren't they,
in-
at that point?
Yeah,
We
Carlos
thought
Arba
we,
got taken off.
at this point, I had my head in my hands thinking the club is finished.
Look, Gillingham, there's about 30,000 United fans in there at the minute. Look, they're all jumping.
Advert. This wasn't. I don't remember this from the match. Do you?
Dreams come true.
Right.
dear.
So let me get part two.
Yeah,
Part two,
Weaver
please.
should have saved that though. You look at it's a bit Edison-like.
Oh yeah.
Off his line, not quite in the right place.
Ryan Corrie, Haaland is very sexy. he wasn't around me.
Right. So as
Tell
it
you what, though, I
as it
feel
stands, 89th minute, 2-0 down.
No.
We're going home, and we're going home in an ambulance because we're not happy.
we're going up in a hearse.
Yeah, we were dead.
And as
The club
and as
was
it stands
officially
at
dead at this point.
Yeah, as it stands at that moment, Manchester City Football Club were months away from closing.
Can I
And
just
it's
make?
zero?
Can I just tell everyone? Joe Rowe made a very famous statement at this point to his assistant at the time, Willie Doniker, and it was this time. And he turned around and he says to him, turns to Willie and he goes, Scunthorpe, the previous day, had just been promoted. Scunthorpe, who at the time were not up there. And Joe Rowe turns to Willie Doniker and says, Scunny next season's Willie. We're going to Scunny. And it was literally like, is this where we're going? I mean, little did we know, we weren't going to Scunny if we were going to the job centre. We were going to the Dole office.
We weren't going to Scunny, we were going to Stockport.
Yeah, we
We're getting our big derby back, the Stockport County derby.
And yeah.
That season we were down. I'll put this into context. Bury were in Division 1 and we were in Division 2.
Who were they?
Stockport
Bury a
Division
club
One.
that has not long
And
gone
we
out of business.
We were
Yeah.
playing Macclesfield in the league, weren't we?
Yeah.
Very football
Yeah.
club where you used to jib over the wall at Gig Lane on a Friday night.
Right.
Does anyone remember that
So-
centre back? Was he called David Moore?
Can we talk about the 99 game, by the way?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this is great.
So 8 to 9 minutes, 35 seconds, 2-0 down. Are we done for?
Some fans had left now, by the way. They had gone. And
Yeah,
then
that was a tackle and a half, that was. And there was the best goal. The best goal that you will ever see a Manchester City player score. Just so you give it you again. Bang! Get in, Kevin Orlock. Super Kevin Orlock, the best midfielder that has ever played for Manchester City. Colin Bell ain't even fit to polish his boots.
Great left foot.
And you can see him doing quite an aggressive walk back to the halfway line.
he's got your hair
Let's
up.
talk about this. Let's just talk about this. Look at that. Bang! Get in.
He has got your hair, mate. That was a great tackle, though.
And to give another thing, about 20 seconds before that, it had flashed up on the screen
5
that
minutes.
Vincent Bartram was man of the match. They had just been given man of the match. They'd taken off their main striker to just see out the 2 minutes.
I will
And then
just say,
they gave 5 minutes extra time. Mark Halsey.
there were.
Well, Mark Elsey never gave us a decision after this day. Can I just make that clear?
I'll just say now, there were
Well, he
City
didn't have-
fans
he-
streaming back in.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of City fans leaving cars on train tracks
Yeah.
to get back into this place. They had some fans had gone in the, they'd gone in the 80th minute. Some fans.
Yeah. Someone pulled the emergency cord apparently on the tube out the station.
Yeah.
City fans got down onto the track and say the
Because-
story goes.
Back then, you could get back in the
I
stadium.
mean, look, that was Terry Cook all day. Can I just rewind this a second?
Yeah.
Right, what I'd said about Terry Cook before. Terry Cook all season long had been putting quality balls into the box.
Yeah.
All day, that was the type of ball Terry Cook was putting into the box. Awful. Does this remind you of the 93-20 moment?
Here we go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have Gerard Vikings, boom. Or was it Tony Ball on that one?
What's
Go
this
on.
from Dicko? Oh,
Ding.
Get it, Dickie. Yeah.
Goosebumps. I've got goosebumps again. I get goosebumps every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Just look at the fans in a minute. They are going. Well, we look at them. Forget 93-20. This is where we were going. Look at us. There was grown men kissing.
This level of celebration just to not go out of business and to go back to the Championship. Not the Premier League, by the way. This wasn't to get back to the Premier League. This was to get back to the Championship, Division 1.
Yeah, to go and play stop.
How the mighty have fallen. What a finish, though, from Dicko there. Goal got fouled there, so we could have got a free kick and all up could have converted it, but you know, whatever.
And people say it took a deflection, which it did. Vince
I
Bartram.
don't think it did. I think it's clean. That's Guy Butters, isn't it? Nah,
I'm sure it
skims his shin pad at the most.
I mean,
Yeah, it didn't really change anything.
These two became very famous on this because they were shown about 1,000 times. These two.
They're like the equivalent of the bloke in 93-20 banging his scarf down.
Yeah, I've met that guy. Let's just say he's not been going to City for very long.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that was emotional. That when that goal went in with Dickie.
Let's not forget as well about this was to just put us back level in the game.
We have another.
Can I
30
just say
minutes
what's
on
coming up
this.
in a minute is the 30 minutes of extra time. Can you remember one thing about the 30
No,
minutes of extra time?
I don't remember it at all.
Absolutely nothing. It was just pure running on pure emotion at this point.
And I will be honest with you, as I remember,
The Gillingham fans must be thinking, what have we done wrong?
I will be
Because
totally-
Gillingham had done nothing wrong that day, had they? Let's be honest.
No,
They've
Gillingham.
not put a single foot wrong that day.
Gillingham did not have a kick. Now Tony Pulis there is going mad because he didn't agree with the 5 minutes. He didn't agree with the 5 minutes, and I'm going to be honest with you. I do wonder back a bit where's he got 5 minutes from.
Yeah,
But
it didn't take the whole 5 minutes though, so it doesn't really matter. If we scored that goal in the 95th minute, then it would have mattered, but we didn't,
Yes.
Martin, so it doesn't matter.
One of my mates was staying in the hotel near London, the Hilton in London. Mark Halsey was staying there, and that night they bought Mark Halsey drinks all night.
Well, you
in the
remember,
bar.
remember, Alan, that Paul Scally actually tried to get the game replayed because of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He actually put an appeal into the Football League to get the game replayed because Halsey had been partying with City fans that night.
This was extra time was just Man City. You won't see a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's all in the
I've only ever remember this from watching it back, and I remember that Nicky Weaver absolutely fluffing his.
Other than this, City just battered him all. Look, and we were.
But actually, at the time, while it was happening live, I don't remember any of it because my head had just gone. My head had just gone at this point.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever, when you celebrate? I mean, when you get so happy that you get an headache and everything goes fuzzy, and that's where I was at this point. I'm going to be honest. My dad had gone down to another seat because by the 95th minute we were never sitting in our normal seats anymore.
That was handball as well by Whitley. That.
None of us.
Watch this. That's handball. That all day, all night. VAR and we're staying in Division 2. Look at the state of that from Whitley. Oh dear.
Diving.
Gets worse
I
every
just
time.
remember
Look at
jumping down different roads. And,
Thank you, FIFA. Cheers, mate.
I'll tell you one thing. If there's ever one kit that I would love for City to play in the second kit or the third kit, it's this.
Well, it's 10 times better than the crap that we wear these days.
The shite they put out, man.
The only thing I will say though about the kit, I loved it, but it did make you get a number on the back. It did force you to get a number.
Yeah, because it was it was basically square, weren't it? Yeah, you can see it there on Sean Goulter. Yeah.
And you didn't have names on the back of the shirts back then. 3 subs, no names, no sponsors on the sleeve.
And that's it.
And here we go, penalties.
So it goes down to penalties.
There's Joe.
And the best penalty of the lot was Richard Edgeo's, and I won't hear any different from you.
Yeah.
What, the guy who totally miskicked it?
No.
The pence.
No, not at all.
There he is.
It's Super Kev, the best midfielder to ever play for Manchester City.
Rob's clone.
I love Kevin Orlock. I seriously do. Love him. But can I just talk?
It's gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really is.
Thick, yeah, it was thick material.
It was a nipple scratcher. It was a nipple scratcher.
I'll say about yeah.
When they rubbed against your nipples, that City kit, because of the location of the Kappa badge and the location of the City crest, it did make your nipples go red raw. But that was one of the best kits we've ever had with that beautiful collar. It had MCFC written on the little lapel part. But it was very heavy, very scratchy. Like it was like wearing wool underpants. I don't recommend wearing wool underpants.
The shirt I loved, the Kappa away shirt I loved was that white, black, and maroon one.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
That was one of the best kits.
Just to let everyone know in the chat, no, we do not have an intruder. It is still Rob. Rob has not been replaced for the evening.
What? Because I like a kit.
Everyone's going. Is Rob dead?
Listen, let me let you into a little secret. Yeah. Ever since I started going to Manchester City, I bought every kit, and there used to be a thing years ago. There used to be a thing where the third kit they'd only make 2,000 or 3,000 of them. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a thing for years and years, and I would make sure I got one every single time. And then in about 2006-07, they stopped trying. They just stopped trying with kits, and I have not bought a kit since.
Don't ever call me about kits then.
So I've got I was younger back then, Martin, and it was cool to wear a City shirt back then. You look like an absolute wank stain now if you wear a City shirt, let's be honest. You're not cool anymore if you wear a City shirt. It's not cool to wear a City shirt. But
look at that collar. For starters, they had collars.
Yeah,
look at collars, that. Yeah. I'll tell you something. If you're a young fan now and you like looking at that and you're watching this right now, go and buy it. Go and buy it. It is absolutely legendary, that shirt. I love it.
Anyway, I used to buy shirts when they were cool. So let's have a look at the penalties now, starting with King Kev, the best player to ever play for Manchester City.
How was everyone feeling at this point?
Me, I was back in it. I was watching. I wasn't like Alan. I was watching because I knew we were going to win.
I turned round.
Bang! Get in.
It felt inevitable that we were going to win.
Can I just point
it
something
felt like
out?
We won when Dick
Let me just point something out. Everyone likes to say that City are crap at penalties, right? In open play, we're not great at penalties. But guess what? In our entire history, we have never, ever lost a competitive penalty shootout. Never lost a competitive penalty shootout. Just throwing
How many
that
have we
fact
had?
out there. Oh, we've had
How
loads.
many have we had?
In the last decade,
About
we've
10.
had about 8. In the last decade
'cause
alone,
we've
we've had
had,
about
like,
8.
Fact.
Chelsea, Liverpool, Leicester.
Leicester,
Wolves.
Wolves. We've had loads. Right, yeah. So, Kevin Orlock scores his penalty. 1-0. Great. Where are we on to?
Is this the guy butter? No, it isn't the guy butters. This is the
Look at that.
is it Hodge?
Simple.
Was it Hodge?
Wasn't he the one? Was he the one who scored?
I think this is the one that gets fluffed over the bar 20 miles, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, Weaver saves it with his legs.
With his feet.
That's the first save. That's the first save he makes.
Nicky
He made some
Weaver.
good saves. He made some good saves in this.
He did, yeah.
Nicky.
He was a hell of a player, Weaver. If he hadn't been with the injuries and the booze,
Yeah,
He
would have,
the booze, mainly.
This is
Could have
Dick
been,
off.
And Dickoff, by the way, doesn't score his penalty. He hits both posts, but it doesn't count as a goal. There you go. How'd you do that, Dicko? How'd you do that?
And then I think they're 4. To be honest, I think was it 4? If we only took 4 each, was I remember?
yeah.
I
They missed
remember
it.
Hodge. I remember Guy Butters. Smith was it?
Hessen
I can't. Does it begin with P?
Pennock. Adrian
Pennock.
or something.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And ours, obviously, was Terry Cook, Richard Edgill. Dickoff was gutted at this
Yeah,
point.
Dickoff. Yeah, he thought he'd blown it, hadn't they? Is this the one that goes over the? No. They score this one. They score
I
this
think
one.
they scored the
No,
second
no.
one.
No,
Oh no, that is the one.
Right.
That is the one that they fluff
Yeah.
over the bar. Yeah. Okay. We're all crapping our pants still. Even though Gillingham are purposely trying to lose the penalty shootout.
As you can see, Kappa there with
Look at
their
him on
name.
his phone. Look at him, the mad lad. Watch the game, you dick. Nothing. Some things never change.
Here he goes. Terry Cook. And I always remember this.
It's about the best thing he did all day because he was crap other than that. Honestly, this was Teddy Cook's worst game.
I've
of
got
the
to say
season.
though, he got us on that winning run when we got him on loan.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
we
saying.
did, yeah.
Martin, that's the point I'm making. He was fantastic when we signed him.
He
But at Wembley, he fell to
scared
bits.
players.
Gareth Taylor there.
Here's Hodge.
This one they score.
Pitbull chewing a wasp.
Yeah. They smashed
Okay.
that one straight in. That reminds me of Maguire's penalty that for England in the summer.
Pitbull chewing a wasp. There he was.
Bang, get him. There you go. Okay, you've got one. Fine. Right, now this is the best penalty City's ever had. And watch his celebration, because this is a true City fan, a true Mank,
Yeah.
a Mank City fan. And watch his celebration when he scores. Richard Edgill. He is an actual club legend.
Lived in Oldham.
Bang, get him.
Lived on Roland.
That is a great penalty, that. I don't want to hear anything from anybody. That is a great penalty.
Roland Barnsley Estate used to drive a black BMW. Convertible.
This is a great penalty. This is a great
The only
penalty.
reason I know that because he used to live next door.
Martin, seriously, waffle about where he lives. We're talking
Yeah.
about the game.
Because I love him.
That's Zidane.
Right, now this is the big one now. We nick it.
Making himself look big.
That's it. And here we go. So we're talking after 2 hours of football.
Yeah,
I
he was gone.
think he's found the white lines, and I don't know about the football pitch white lines.
He had gone.
Yeah, he's gone. We're all gone at this point. I was going crazy.
And he gets flattened by Andy Morrison for his troubles. I would not like to be in a pile-on with Andy Morrison. He's not breathing for the next 5 minutes there.
It was amazing. It was, and there was 2 songs played at this point. There was them people moving on up,
Moving on. Yeah,
and then there was also "Rocking All Over the World" by Status Quo.
Yeah, Status
Oh.
Quo. That's what I
And we
remember, mate.
literally
Whoever
sang
Status
the
Quo.
place.
And everyone dancing to Status Quo.
And not only that,
on their seats.
every
There's
single
Big
one-
Joe. Saviour.
Yeah, Big Joe
No, but
Royal.
Proper hero.
we were literally, the players came on, they were on their knees bowing to us.
Look at Wembley Stadium, the old Wembley Stadium. I
I
swear
know
it's
people
crumbling.
show the players bowing.
Look, there he is, Tony Vaughan. Watch Tony Vaughan, look at him.
Who came out and admitted he was a United fan.
Yeah, but it don't matter, mate. Look at that. That's a legend, that, mate. I don't care whether he's a United fan or not. That's a legend. And then the tears. I've seen that guy quite a lot. I don't know whether he still goes, but
Dicko's very relieved. The emotion he went through probably in that last.
Well, when he duffed his penalty.
Yeah.
Especially.
He went from the equaliser to duffing his penalty.
Even the keeper kits looked good back then. The badge was crap, let's be honest. The badge was awful.
Well, the Eagles terrible.
Here we go.
And Sean Goat wearing
Sean
a
Goat, the only
Gillingham
one who
shirt.
ruined it in his Gillingham top. Swap shit earlier. Here he goes, big Andy Morrison. Oh,
And you'll see what's his face. You'll see Bernstein here, won't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there he is. That's him there. Bernstein.
Yeah.
Oh, Andy.
I was down there, so I was in line with this down there about where them blue flags are waving there. That's about where
I was behind the goal, mate. And there was no LED.
Look at that Tin Pot trophy. You can stuff your Champions League trophies. Let's not forget, by the way, that Man United had won the treble that season.
Made it all possible. Doesn't want to let the trophy go.
You just wonder, Rob, is this a start of a City resurgence? That's what these fans all around the team now, giving them their claim, I think. And is this a start?
Well, the City fans really have been beyond.
I mean, look at the fashion stadium. People wearing
their numbers, and in many ways, that was the most difficult task that
look,
City
1
faced.
for 13, 14,
None of the expectation.
67, 28.
Started to fulfil that expectation now.
It's a better trophy to win.
Now the party begins. Incredible. Away to our right.
Just look at them fans.
These
These are the most beautiful people in the history of the world.
What a topsy-turvy match for them.
It's what they do in a minute.
I said it was going to be a long journey back up the M6.
When they literally line up.
They'll whiz through it now.
And we bowed
Well,
it.
it's
We basically
yet
balanced
another
it.
match that shows you to expect the unexpected.
Look at
Football. Gillingham looked home and dry until that late turnaround. He's not shown too much emotion.
One of the greatest men in history, that guy.
Don't believe it.
Alan, he looks like he's going to cry.
I just,
Did you see how
we were
shot
dead and buried. And then to come back like we did, obviously Paul got in.
Alan and Rich know all about Danny Alsop.
Yeah, he's in Melbourne. Yeah. He comes to the pub. All the big games at the end of the season, he's in the Imperial watching the games.
Right, so you can see how we're all still dancing and cheering and loud. Because I'm going to tell you in a minute what happened when we left the ground. On the coach I was on, I don't know about. I can't confirm for other coaches, but the coach
I'm going to
I was
admit,
on.
some of the stuff. Look, down.
Yeah, they are.
That's what they thought of us.
Main Road that season, Main Road.
I don't know how they got back in.
Unlike we are now. It was Main Road was nearly full every week, and today's fans, Wednesday for example, let down.
Liam there, trying to knock
We had more loyal fans now.
Put it on his head. Put it on his head.
And that's your lot. Now, let me switch screens. I don't know why it's done that, but whatever. Carry on talking. Well, I don't know why you all fall silent when
It was amazing. It really was. Sean, exactly, you love it, mate. And you do. Kiam, spot on. It did mean more to us. That meant more than any of their Champions Leagues that day. It really was. Yeah, exactly. No fans. We were invented in 2008. Did you see that? We were like sardines in a tin.
But you know,
when they're talking about no fans, the first game of that season in Division 2, I went to Main Road thinking it was going to be about 10 or 15,000 going to be there. That's Main Road there, right? We got in the ground, right, about 5 minutes before kickoff, and it was full.
Yeah.
Full. There wasn't a seat in the ground. Gene Kelly stand the whole lot. It was full, and then we have problems filling our. We have problems filling our. We were in Division 2 against Blackpool. The players couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I got in there. And do you know what? It was like we're in the shit. We're all sticking together, and we're going to make sure our club get back to where it belongs. Not like it is today, being precious and carrying on the way we carry on, and don't turn up. You know,
don't you love it that the most precious City fan there is, Alan, who lives in Hobart, is the one lecturing everyone
I don't live in
about
Melbourne.
games.
Listen, in those days, Richard, you know and I know, those days, we had better loyal fans than we do now. And it's all right saying you can argue that's nonsense. It's true. When we're in the deep shit, everyone turned up. But now, because we're glory and we're winning trophies, we pick and choose when we want to go down. Wednesday was an embarrassment.
I think there's other reasons. I mean, so few, like we used to go at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, and you knew there was going to be a game 3 o'clock every Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the midweek games were scheduled 6 months in advance. You knew it was going to be a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and that's all you had to deal with. And then you probably paid 10, 15 quid a ticket, and it was a different world. And I do think what you're saying about success. Success is the emotions of football only really come when you're winning and losing. The good times are great because you have bad times, and when you get successful and you win most weeks like we do now, we're not really going through bad times losing a Champions League final, but they're not regular. You're not going into games thinking you're going to lose, so the upside just isn't the same.
What I want to do is, I'm going to tell you now what happened when we left the ground. I met up with my uncle and my cousin when I came out of that ground because they were sat in different seats. They were actually closer to the trophy. But we went to go back to get on our coach, and we got on our coach. And I have to tell you that I've been to louder funerals because everybody was so exhausted and nobody had any energy left that day. But
we literally fell asleep.
But what I want to do is I want to just read you a quote. I don't want to get super serious, but I want to read you a quote. All right. And this quote, people talk all the time, forget history. It doesn't matter. It's the here and now that matters. But the here and now does not exist without that day in 1999. It just doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I just want to read you something from The Constellation of Philosophy by Boethius. Right? Not to get super deep, but just listen to these words. It is my belief that history is a wheel. Inconsistency is my very essence, says the wheel. Rise up on my spokes if you like, but don't complain when you are cast back down into the depths. Good times pass away, but then so do the bad. Mutability is our tragedy, but it is also our hope. The worst of times, like the best, are always passing away. And nothing truer could ever be said about Manchester City Football Club. You take the rough with the smooth, you take the good with the bad. Because the bad times are what make the good times worth it. That's basically what that means. You cannot enjoy to the fullest the 93-20 moment without the 99 Wembley playoff final. You have to understand your history. You have to embrace your history, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. You have to believe in it, and you have to follow it, and you have to buy into it, because it matters. Because it makes everything that happens now worth it. That's the point of it. Remember who you are. Remember what you've bought into when you became a Manchester City fan. Whether you were born into it, like us four were, or whether you found it because it called to you.
Yeah.
Buy into it, believe in it, get behind it, because the good times, while they're here now, guess what? They will go away at some point, but they will be back. But you learning and understanding and reading history of the club makes it worth it.
Spot on. Absolutely.
That season when we were suffering, when we were struggling, defined all City fans. What they are now, the old legacy ones, and I know the younger ones that weren't around then. Going through that defined who we are. And in those days, the club always looked after the fans, which it's debatable whether they do that now or not. So, but we went through hell. And I suppose a bit like Sunderland are right now, they're going through hell. But when it comes out on the other side and we have the 93-20 moment, all that day flashed back to me when Sergio scored that goal. The season going to watch York away, going to the Blackpool game, which I felt so proud at home, being a City fan, walking in a full house. I was more proud then than ever.
Yeah. There's that, and we're fairly. There's not many clubs whose fans, have really experienced a real spectrum. I mean, to a degree, Leeds United fans
Yeah,
they've experienced winning a league, Champions
Yeah,
League
but
semi-final.
even they didn't stick with their club when they first got relegated.
Yeah, they did. They weren't quite big.
Newcastle didn't.
Chelsea,
Leeds didn't.
Newcastle.
Sunderland,
they've been down,
Middlesbrough, all of these other clubs that people say are big clubs, bigger than Man City, all of them turn the back on their clubs. And it really shows you the difference, because obviously their clubs are still surviving, I guess you can call it survival. They're floundering, they're X, Y and Z. But without people in 1998 saying, go on then, I'll go again, sod it, it's still City, it's still my club. There's no other club in this world that I can possibly support. I'll buy that season ticket again. I'll go again. Suck it and see. How bad can it really get? That's why we back City.
And
that's
and
why we are
I
City.
reckon,
That's why we all feel as if we're owed a living by City. And that's why we feel that we deserve more respect than we get from the club. Because we made it what it is. And we want you to share in that. We want you so desperately we want you to share in that. I don't like it. I don't like the division between old and new, because it's not real. What is real is that we're all City fans and we all need to share it.
No, and it shouldn't be there. Because we're all here for the same reason.
But to share it, you have to respect our history and where we came from.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's the fans that started supporting us internationally in 2012, 11, 12, etc. started supporting City then. They need to understand where we've come from and respect where we've come from, and understand when we stop winning things, when we have a hard time again, because it will happen again. You then have to support the club and turn up and back that club no matter what happens. No matter. It's so important.
People like Michael Feeney make it all worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
So when you're on, all you people watching this, when you're on YouTube, share it with your mates, share it with your other City fans that you used to go, young and old, share it all. They need to understand, they need to be educated,